All right, so with a little bit of daylight I've got left in the day, I'm going to try to get the tire changer, which is right there, set up on the pallet. So I got the pallet pulled out that I had in my storage area over here, which has been completely destroyed by sun and wind. And I got a piece of plywood, which will help keep it more rigid. So I'm going to get that attached on there and see if I can get tires broken off today. So let's get into it. All right, so at Home Depot, I picked up these bolts right here, if it'll focus. So it's just a carriage bolt. So hopefully I don't need to put a wrench on, I won't have to put a wrench on the underside. I'll just hammer it in if this will focus. I'll hammer it in, the square nut will catch on there, and then I'll just tighten down from the top. So this isn't long enough to go through the pallet and the plywood, so I'm just going to do it through the plywood, and we'll see if it is thin enough that I don't need to drill out the bottom. If I do, not the end of the world, I'll just take a hole saw to it. All right, so let's get the tire changer roughly where I want it, mark where the holes are going to go, and drill some holes. So I'm going to leave this on here and drill all the way through so that it will mark where the holes are here. If anything, it'll give it a little bit of relief here. So we'll see. All right, let's get this turned over, get these carriage bolts hammered into place. Go. Go back. So I just dropped the lock washer underneath the pallet. There you go. Alright. Get these guys in place. Just gonna send it just to get it. Calls aren't going anywhere. Alright. See if I can feel those holes. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but it's actually not raised up too bad, so I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, let's get this guy in place. Almost dropped straight on. Come on. Let's get these bolts tightened in. We got locker, washer. For this one right here, let's lift up that piece. We got washer, split washer, lock washer, whatever you want to call it, and nut. These edges curl up, so this will pull it flat. This should pull up. Okay. Drop that washer there. So I'm not compressing the rubber. Persuasion device. Comes in handy. So now that force is going to go down into the middle and not onto the rubber. Let's see. Perfect. I'll use an extension just because. I'm just going to snug these right now. All right. So next, let's get drill and screw this down so it doesn't move, and then we'll take these down. The reason for that is I don't want this to warp the wood. I want the wood to pull back that flat. Let's see if I can go find my bit holder. I got the bits. Bit holder should be in my hodgepodge bin. like chaos and you're wondering how I find anything in here, I don't. I need to reorganize it. It used to have order to it, but then I had to throw extra tools in here for another project, and it just became a jumbled up mess. Bit holder with a bit. Or, okay. So you guys back here. Got 3 beams on here. These are not long enough to go all the way into those, but all this wood is secured down, so I'm just going to use plenty of screws. And that completely just stripped out that screw. Well, not the screw, but the wood. So my technique will be 2 down at this side here, since that'll be mainly compression force on the wood, so that doesn't really need much. I'll do 3 here. That's going to be more pivoting. And back here I'm going to put a ton, just because this is going to take a lifting force. So I want to make sure as much of it's transferred down as possible. I might try to go find my longer screws as well. So this barely shut down. Ran out of data space, so I had to clean up some files. All I did was I finished getting these back screws installed and got these torqued down. So now it's 100% secured to the pallet. So let's go ahead and get move this tire onto there and try to break that bead. All right, so I think I'm gonna try hitting it with soapy water and see if that breaks it free. Let's get the tire up on top of here, and then we're gonna unbox this. This is a duck head tool for removing the tires and installing tires that attaches onto this mount. So let's see if we can figure that out. All right, got a bit of a surface, so let's unbox this. So this is our new center post. It's gonna go like this. It's got some bearings that go inside it. Duck head. This is the down mount that goes onto that. This bolts to the duck head, goes down. Here, we can adjust our distance. This goes on here. Let's tighten that down just so it don't go anywhere. This goes on here. Adjust that. And then I think we got a spare. What's that for the top? And then we got our bearings. So our thrust bearings and some collars. And then the bolts for attaching the duck head, I believe. Forgot the bottom plate. I was wondering why it was going down so far. This goes on first. here. And this came with no instructions, so I'm kind of trying to figure it out as I go. So we've got bearing plate and our thrust bearings right here. So bearing plate, thrust bearing, bearing plate. And then this guy, that's that. And then on the top, we're gonna have bearing plate, thrust bearing, bearing plate. And I think I'm gonna ride this up a bit higher on here. It would have been nice if it came with a X driver. I don't have a good set of them. At least not larger. I've got ones that work with 3D printing, but all right, let's see what I can go find for a hex driver. All right, so I've got myself a hex bit, and I'll just use the ratchet, just as long as I don't lose the bit. Okay, let's see where I want this. I'm gonna remove this top bearing. Actually, I need the top bearing right now for adjusting position. Okay. Let's see if I can do this with that attached. All right, I'm going to remove this bearing and this bottom bearing and get this all nice and tight. Okay. That shouldn't go anywhere. So let's get this bearing down here. That moves about a bit. I wish I had some bearing grease. These look like they're pre-greased. We'll probably put some grease on this at some point. It's not going to get too heavy wear, so not terribly concerned. All right, let's put this on. Make sure that that sits all the way down. Okay. Let's tighten this down. All right, let's get this top bearing. And this guy on. And I don't want to lose this down inside the tire. Okay, now that that's roughly tightened, let's get this good tension. Beautiful. That's riding nicely. Let's get this guy bolted on. Not captive. All right, I'm gonna put the bolts through the bottom. And then washer and nut on the top. Bolt. Washer and nut. All right, let me get something to tighten that. I've got a 9/16. I'm not going to put it too tight because this is plastic. So I'm not going to put a wrench on this backside. Good enough. Okay. So now this, and you start on this side right here. I don't think I have a tire pressure monitor, but best practice to start here. There we go. Oh, the bottom bead is sealed. That's what my issue is. The bottom bead resealed itself. Okay. Next tire, more lubricant. All right, so I am done. Not successful, but done. I cannot get that bottom bead. The duckbill is too short. Well, not technically not the duckbill. This extension here is too short for me to use the duckbill to get the leverage I need for this wide of a tire. And so I am gonna see if they make a longer piece there, try to order that, or see what other people have done for this, because this is not working, and I'm not going to continue to break my back on it. I've already spent over an hour trying to do this now. Got the bead broken, got the top bead off, but that bottom bead is just not cooperating. I try to flip it, but that's still not going to work properly. So anyway, that's where I'm going to wrap it up for today. If you like what I'm doing, feel like seeing more, drop a like, feel free to subscribe, and